Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk 20's. I hope everyone's doing well. For this episode, the topic was outside influence, the good and the bad. So GT, Connor, and I really got into depth about good influences that we had into our early adulthood, what lifestyle changes we have made in order to be good influences for others, but also to ourselves, and how to escape bad influences, whether it's your home life or a relationship, or what to do in certain scenarios where you feel stuck, where you feel like you don't know how to change things for the better. So there's a lot of great questions that are in this episode. So without further ado, let's get into it. Thank you for listening or watching, whatever you decide to do on YouTube or Spotify. Follow the Instagram account, Let's Talk 20's podcast. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk 20's, episode 17. We're getting close to that milestone of episode 20. For this episode, the title is going to be Outside Influence, the Good and the Bad. So kind of talking about our evolution of kind of our influence based on our peers and kind of how we evolved our mindset and kind of going about with our friends and significant others, all the above. So, fellas, how are we doing first off? What's been going on this week?
Man, busy as all get out. Freaking finally got over this stupid cold. Man, this weather sucks, man. This isn't even a hot take. Fall, winter weather sucks because everyone gets cold.
Wow, that's an interesting thing that you brought up because we're doing a new segment on the Let's Talk 20's podcast called Hot Take. And we can use that for this week. You're saying that fall weather sucks?
Not fall, because fall is still a little warm, but winter, when it's just freezing cold and everyone gets a cold, and it's also flu, because flu comes in about spring, like winter, spring, but it's just cold.
Yeah, dude, that's winter.
It's just cold.
Cold weather is absolutely better than hot weather.
Leaves everywhere.
Yeah, I don't.
Freezing cold. I'm talking freezing cold, not cold, but I'm talking freezing cold. Like, can't wear short sleeves, or else you're gonna get sick.
Compared to sweltering hot, like where you're sweating and can't get comfortable, and you're like AC doesn't do anything, and you got to take like an ice bath.
Well, if you don't have good AC, then that sounds like a personal problem.
You call me poor?
All right, so let's hop into the episode. That is a hot take. I kind of actually
not really.
I love skiing. I love the actual winter time.
Yeah,
but at the same time, summer, bro, nice pool. I mean, that's
cool
what I'm saying.
off.
I don't know. There's good with both. But let's dive into this episode, fellas. For the first question I've lined up for us, why do you think people in their 20s are influenced so easily?
I think personally, we're all trying to find out our adult selves, and people rush into their adult selves because people try to one up each other and get a good solid base early, and they want to have as high of a solid base to start off. So they rush into it, and they think if this can get me here, or this can make me that, and I could be just that much higher, make that much more money, look that much better, or anything, especially on social media, they do it, and they'll take it, and they'll be like, the risk is what? Screw it, I'll do it. Personal gain and growth to try to be ahead of their peers.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Connor, what do you have to add to that?
I agree, and I think it has a lot to do with self-worth and self-value. You're trying to find yourself in your 20s, especially when you're finding your career, when you're finding out what you really want to do for the rest of your life, when you take on new identities such as a father, a teacher if you're going to be a teacher, an uncle if your brother or sister is having kids. You know what I mean? You take on all these new identities, and so you're trying to balance all these new things and do them right. And so it's natural to turn to other people who have been, successful at doing it. And so it's really easy to look like, what do they do, and be influenced by it. So, yeah.
I will say for my answer, I think part of it has to do the way that we are raised, well, specifically people our age, how we've always been kind of given stuff now. We're used to technology, everything being at our fingertips. We're so used to having everything as soon as we want it, or we feel entitled to have that ability. And so I think in terms of our 20s and being easily influenced, right, we want to have that change now. We want to be more popular. We want this better job. We want it, and we want it now. So I feel like that kind of lifestyle or societal kind of upbringing kind of forced us to be so influenced in an easy way because, hey, if we want stuff now and we have to change now, then okay, sure, I'll do it. I'll try that, or I'll get that job because I want more money now, just as an example. But yeah, I think all three of those things combined and probably much more for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Connor, what's your first question lined up? I know we got a lot of these today.
Yeah, we got some good one, people. So we're trying.
Yeah. Let's just try to get them in. My first question I'll start off with is, how much of a role do you guys think positive self-image, or I guess just self-image in general, correlates with the influences you choose to have?
Go ahead, GT.
All right. Having a positive self-image, it will determine a lot of maybe something that's advertised or put out there when it's has a specific thing that it helps out with, maybe your character, your personality, how you think, your mindset, your mentality, your job, or how to be better at finances, investments, your current career, or whatever it may be. And I think if you don't have a positive self-image about yourself, I think it's just you tend to fall or lean towards that because you want it to be fixed. And some people may not want to be vulnerable, or they look to it to get that problem solved, to have less things wrong and going on so they don't have to worry or stress about it. This world will try to influence you on into almost anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I think of a positive self-image, right, if you're more comfortable with who you are as a person, that to me also kind of translates to your confidence about yourself. You're more secure about your beliefs, who you are, your personality, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe having a more positive self-image can correlate to you not being as easily influenced as people who are less insecure, are more insecure about themselves, or maybe don't have as many positive factors going in their life as someone who has a more positive self-image of themselves. And so I feel like those two things can kind of link together in terms of how easily you're influenced, whether it's in a positive or a negative manner. But yeah. What about you, Connor?
I mean, I agree with both of y'all's answers, and you guys touched on it, but I asked this question because I think, this is something I've struggled with, especially when I was in high school and going into college, my first couple of years. I didn't, and still struggle with trying to have a good self-image of myself and value the decisions that I make. And so that also made me think specifically of the type of people that I would be friends with who wouldn't necessarily make good decisions in their lives. And there's nothing, if you make a bad decision in your life because you're lost or because you're just trying to find yourself, that's fine. But it was almost like I would be around people that habitually made that pattern and chose to make these bad decisions, knowing that they were doing it, knowing that it was making their lives worse, and they wouldn't try to reflect on it. And because I viewed myself the same way as that, I chose bad influences because I didn't think I was good enough to have better influences, basically. So I think it's really important to definitely, we've talked about self-image, we've talked about knowing your worth. The more you know your worth, kind of like how you touched on Tanner, the more you know your strengths, the more you're comfortable with yourself. You're not going to be as influenced by people that you meet that maybe aren't going to be as good influences, or just things that are not good influences, but you also are going to make the best version of yourself. And that includes meeting good people who are also trying to make better decisions about themselves.
I would agree with that for the most part, right? If you're a positive person, you're going to try to surround yourself with like-minded people, right? Why would you be in a good headspace and then surround yourself with individuals who intentionally are, detrimental to whatever you're trying to do, right?
It doesn't add much to you and your positive mindset.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. And again, it's not, even if you have people who go through things, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people that habitually choose to make these things happen in their lives. It's not you having a bad day and like you're a good person and you have a bad day. Like, that's fine. It's just, you have a choice a lot of the times, and you can choose to make those bad decisions. So anyways,
like we said in previous podcasts, right? life happens.
Yes,
That's right.
it
That's
does.
right.
But that's mine. T. Let's go to you now, my friend.
Oh, let's do it, boys. What influence has kept you persistent / motivated when it felt like the odds or everything was against you?
Well, there's a lot of directions you can go with that question. I think for me personally, it was my family, obviously the people who you're around with the most when you're a child, and kind of how your parents present themselves to you, their kind of personality, right? Because they're your role models, or like your first role models, I should say, if they're good parents. I'm assuming most people have parents that they look up to as a kid, right? They aspire to be like their parents or something like that. So you're heavily influenced by your family. And I kind of also believe that whatever aspirations you have as a younger person, a kid, teenager, whatever, if you aspire to be a doctor or something, right? And you kind of realize, or someone tells you the steps in order for you to be a doctor, that kind of plants a seed in your head to make lifestyle choices maybe, or kind of adopt certain good influences or good behaviors that can help you achieve that goal if that's truly what you want to do. GT, you want to be a baseball player, right? So did you decide to go and work at McDonald's flipping burgers if you wanted to be a baseball player? No, right? You're trying to make decisions that are helping you achieve that goal that you want to be. So I feel like those two influences, what your goals and aspirations are, but other thing is your environment, how you're raised, or maybe the friends that you're around. But those are the two I thought of originally.
Yeah. I mean, I relate exactly to what Tanner's saying, and I would just, I guess, specifically call out my mom, who has always been such a persistent, like, force of like good in my life, and who has always like been there for me if I needed her at any point when I was low in my life. It's like I have to do good just for her and just for our family name at the end of the day, because I'm proud of it and I'm proud of what she's done for me, and I'm so thankful of what she's done for me. So I want to make her proud by giving back to our family and giving back to the world. And I think, yeah, kind of like the goals and the objectives for yourself that Tanner talked about. It's like when you start to value yourself and realize maybe what contributions you can offer the world, that makes you push past some of the harder days to go, okay, this might all be worth it for a purpose, because my end goal is this here, and that end goal will help me influence all these people in these different ways. Like, you know, right now I'm trying to go back to school for music therapy, and it's like, it's hard sometimes with my jobs, but I know to keep pushing because my end goal is bigger than my daily struggles, I guess, sometimes. So yeah, I relate exactly to what you said, Tanner. You put it right on the money.
I agree with both of you guys.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
both. It's whoever asks a question, the other two just bam. But for me personally, like you said earlier, Tanner, it's tough. Like the outside influence, but I think there's also like good influence that then becomes your own personal influence. So, and using that good influence from the outside of you to then that influences you to into your personal influence. It's what you got to do, no matter what you want to do. If you want to be a rapper, producer, artist, you know, or if you want to be an athlete, if you want to be a coach, if you want to be whatever it may be, you know, you have to set your mind to it, and you can't let everybody tell you no, 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 no. And because when you let that happen, then you start to accept what other people say, and that's not you being the authentic, genuine you. And no one wants a fake you. Everyone wants the authentic, you know, the authentic Tanner, the authentic Connor, the authentic GT, or whoever, you know, is listening to this podcast. So it's pushing through people trying to take you down or put you down, and just, or not even that, just tell you something that's they're not even a part of. They're a part of your life, but they might not be a part of the journey or adventure or anything. So, and to not let that affect your next step. Don't let them affect that, because you gotta move your own steps by yourself, because no one's gonna baby you all the way there. It's just not gonna happen. So
I
just
really
staying
like
strong.
I really like your answer that you part of the answer that you said about kind of saying that if someone tells you something a certain amount of times, then you start believing it, right? Especially if in a negative connotation. If someone tells you that GT, you're never going to be a professional baseball player. Well, guess what? Eventually, if you're told that over and over and over again, it's going to slowly but surely you're going to start convincing yourself. And so that, in terms of outside influence, whether it's family, loved ones, friends, whatever, if someone tells you something that maybe is negative towards your goals or negative to you in general, and they say it over and over and over again, you're going to start believing it. So being influenced by the ones that you put yourself around is very vital, especially in your 20s. That is such a vulnerable time in your life when you're trying to figure yourself out, and maybe you think you know yourself, and then you're surrounding yourself with bad people, and guess what? You're not that bad person. You're trying to be better than that. So for my next question, kind of actually tying that into it, how has growing up in your 20s kind of changed your perspective from what is good influence versus bad influence?
I mean, I can start with part of my answer. I think one thing that I used to think a lot of when I was younger and when I was a teenager and figuring out like what was a good influence and what was a bad influence, I remember the good influences were the people that like hustled and the people that like worked their asses off. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't have cussed, but whatever. But
we're gonna have E right by our names, and it's gonna have the E for explicit, baby.
all right. Well then, anyway, so the fucking good influences in life, it was always people who worked super hard and like sacrificed everything to make their dreams happen. And I always aspired to be like that and to find something that I wanted to do with that. Well, my priorities are different in life. I realized in my 20s that I care about a lot of different things. I care about my friends. I care about my family. I care about my hobbies that I have. I care about my personal time when I can just like decompress. I care about, my self-worth and always trying to better myself and learning new skills. And I don't always have time to just sacrifice it on one thing because I'm a faceted individual. Now, I wouldn't say it's maybe just made me think about it differently, like what's a good influence for me and what's a bad influence for me. So the more I've learned to understand myself, there's certain advice that people talk about is universal, that people talk about can apply to everybody, but I don't think that's true. I think that I think there are general moral things in general, treat each other with respect and be kind to others, but there's certain things that are not going to work for everybody. And that kind of hustle mentality works for me in some regard, but it didn't work for me completely. And then I used to think I was like lazy because I didn't have that same drive for just one thing. And it's like, well, no, I just have a drive for a bunch of different things. It's like spread out across a bunch of different stuff. So my long-winded answer is that I learned how to find what was a better influence for my personality rather than just picking what was, promoted or commercialized as a good influence for everybody. I understood myself and picked what was better for me.
I think I totally agree. And high school me we talked about how in our 20s we're very easily influenced. You also, before then, even though this is Let's Talk 20s, for me personally, high school, I was very heavily influenced because I transferred high schools. And I feel like, but it goes into my 20s, it's, just growing up, like you get to see the real world. And you get to see where maybe some influences that you did have going into your 20s, like you said, Connor, like they just don't work for you, but some might be good influences. And that's just for me personally. I did some research, I did some soul searching and who I really am and what I believe and what I want to do. And it's something that, especially now, because we figure out who we truly are, like you both said. So, I mean, yeah, just get hit with like bills, get hit with taxes. You are out of college. You're now in the real world. When the real world hits you, you tend to find out inefficiencies. So I just think, whatever can help fix those cracks or fix those leaks, whatever that you want to go about thinking it as. So I think it's just when the real world hits you, that's where you truly find what good influence and people who have the same morals or like ethics or same mindset or mentality. So it's kind of like doing your own research.
I think for me personally, you have the guys in high school or guys in college that are well liked and seem to have their shit together, and you almost part of you kind of wants to replicate that, right? You want to either you want to be the alpha or you want to be like the guy that's well liked by others and everything, and trying to achieve or imitate someone else's personality. One, you're being fake and you're not being who you are yourself, but also just because they're popular doesn't mean that they have their shit together or that their life is good. So something that I thought was a good influence, trying to be liked by everyone. Granted, I didn't try. Like in high school, Connor, in GT, I don't think I tried to be liked by everyone. I think
You were
no, I wasn't trying to go that route. I was saying like I didn't go out of my way to be friends with everyone, but I have my group of friends and I have the people who I actually care about. I don't need to care about everyone else, respectfully. You know what I mean? I have my circle of friends, my family, my significant other. I have everyone that I could want or need. And so trying to imitate this guy who's friends with everyone and appears to have their shit together and be like someone else. Like, no, screw that. Be your genuine self. People are going to like you or hate you regardless. You know, you could be that perfect guy. And guess what? There will still be someone who dislikes you. So this false reality of trying to be liked by everyone and all that was something that I thought was a good influence, but turned out to not be so true.
I was just gonna add real quick. Like that's definitely something that I still struggle with, and I've gotten better with. It's kind of like being more comfortable with looking up to people that are just more of them or their authentic selves, but they're not necessarily like friends with everybody. That's what I'm like more interested in with influences, is people who are their real genuine selves. And even though they might not have like a lot of people that like them, they're genuine, and that's more interesting and more engaging because they found themselves, and that's what I'm looking for. And so recently I found that, and I think that whole thing where maybe that person who's likable by everybody just tries to be likable by everybody, but they're not actually happy being likable by everybody because they can't find something in themselves, so they have to get it from somebody else. I mean, I did that in high school, so I can relate to that. But anyways, yeah, I'm sure we all can relate. One of my questions kind of relates to this, so we can probably just jump into it real quick, and I'll ask this one later. What people are your biggest influences in your life in your 20s right now? I know we've kind of touched on it, but like, you know, we talked about how has that changed since we were teenagers. So just, I guess, name some people that you feel are the biggest influences.
Oh man, biggest influences. I would say, first off, God. Just like really, when the real world hit me, I kind of was like, I really need to be better at my like religion stuff. But I would also say my parents, my girlfriend, just to see like how strong they are and to see other differences in people and how that makes them strong and how they've overcome so many different things. So just being able to learn or take a little pieces of knowledge or experience that they gone through and to kind of strengthen myself and my personal self, just become a better version of me, try to become a little bit better every day. So my loved ones, absolutely. My good friends, I call Tanner all the time. You know, I call other friends. I call my girlfriend when things are going down, like if I feel down or something's going on. But yeah, man, I mean, just the ones that are close around, your friends and loved ones, honestly, is who I look. It's who I look for and who I look to for when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah. What about you, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, I know I asked a question, and it's GT kind of summarized it. Thankfully, my family, I know not everybody's this fortunate, but I've had the absolute privilege of having a family that I can look at as a positive influence. You know, of course, my mom, my brothers have been really strong influences, positive influences in my life while I've been going through this tough time. Sorry, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. My grandma too, and my friends, as like GT was saying, Tanner, I definitely would consider you a positive influence. GT, short time I've gotten to know you, you as well. There's this person that I met.
You as well, Connor. Let me just shout you out too.
I know, we're still going to know each other.
So I don't know better.
No, we're still going to know each other, so it's all good, baby. But no, for real, there's this person in DC, her name's Tabitha, and I grew really close with her. And yeah, she was like a huge and positive influence in my life with how she treated people. So just surrounding myself, I people who just every day like are just excellent in their lives. Like that's who I've started looking up to more. People who are their genuine selves and are just happy in their everyday life. It's just been really nice. So that's what I would say. Tanner?
Same thing, guys. God, family, friends. Bam, bam, bam.
Yep.
I try, and like I just said, trying to be Mr. Popular and be friends with a lot of people. Over the years in college, once I became out of touch with people, I also did a little cleaning of the house, and I had a lot of people that I consider friends, but it wasn't really for any positive by any of us, really. It was just being friends because we were friends in the past. And so once I know it's something that we'll probably talk about, but just kind of realizing that, once again, the only people I need are people who care about me, will root for me, and if I call them, will they help me? And if those people cross off the boxes, I really try to make an effort to stay in touch with them. So definitely my friends, right? We're all into the 20s together. And it's hilarious because we all try to, in some way, pretend like we have our shit together, but none of us do. And I'll call anyone in the 20s that's in my phone right now and ask them, hey, how are things are going? And within 10 minutes, something will be brought up in conversation about, oh, I'm struggling with this, or I can improve in this. So definitely everyone's in the same boat together. So I say everyone is a good influence in terms of trying to bring each other up. Definitely my family, my family story with my dad's accident, divorce, yada, yada, like just having rocks in tough times mean a lot. So GT, what's your question you got next?
Man, how does one avoid outside influence that one deems bad/negative?
Okay.
Maybe like personal things, because there's so many different routes you could go or do.
How does one avoid the bad outside influence?
Yeah, how does one like avoid it or cut it out from affecting them?
I mean, there's a difference between like avoiding it in general, because there's always going to be temptations. There's always going to be people that come into your life, especially if you have a past history. Maybe you've struggled with an addiction or something, and you're in a situation where it influences you, and you maybe feel that urge just to come back to that kind of pressure, right? So I think it's almost impossible to avoid bad influences, because it's life and it's gonna happen. But what you can control is your reaction to the influences. And we've kind of talked about like being the best version of yourself, so that when there are bad influences in your life, to be strong in those moments and to remind yourself how far you've come, or how far of a person from where you were to where you are now, how far you've come since then, reminding yourself of all the positive things that you've done, and reminding yourself of what good you've done in the past couple months or years, or however long you've been working on yourself. I think most people would agree, like you're always going to run into some situations where you might not find a good influence, but you can always find a good influence in yourself if you look to be the best version of yourself. So that's the best way, I would say, to avoid bad influences, is to focus on yourself and focus on being the best version of yourself that you can be.
Mr. Tanner?
Connor nailed it on the head, man, honestly, because what I was going to say is pretty much here's something that I kind of thought was interesting, is that no one ever makes you upset. You make yourself upset. If you're mad at someone, they might have said something that was very hurtful, but you accepted it and you reacted to it. Therefore, you are the reason why you are upset, not that person and what they said. Now, agree with that, disagree with that. It's an interesting take, but like Connor said, we're all fucked up in our own ways. Like we said in a previous episode, perfectly imperfect. Everyone has their flaws, so you are going to mess up. You are going to cave into the temptation or the bad influence, but keep your head on straight and realize what your overall goals are, how far you've come, and just realize that there always will be bad influences in your life. No matter where you live, who you surround yourself with, there will always be something, and that's just part of life. But you have to kind of separate yourself from that and just, there's nothing other to say besides just try to avoid it. I don't fucking know.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard question to answer.
It is, because it feels like there's one solid, like one answer, like what Connor said. But dude, like it's tough because you get frozen up and you're trying to go about a different avenue about it.
Yeah.
But like for me, just it's to go like break it down, kind of like y'all said, find something that is a good influence for you. If it's a specific person, maybe find out like just do something your own thing where they're not able to affect you or be around you. Something like that. Or if it's, maybe like temptations, like you said, like make yourself busy with something else or put yourself around good friends. I promise you, I know me personally, when I'm around like good people, like my girlfriend, my friends, like family, I'm away from like, from temptations, because when you're alone in this world, dude, you'd be so surprised if you ask people after they've done something, like what happened? Like, were you by yourself or were you around good influences? So, which it is what it ultimately comes back to.
Right.
So it's just having the right people around, right time. But I think mentally being strong as well. So being able to say no.
Yeah.
And to not always say yes, but to say no
Definitely.
when you absolutely need to. Because there's going to be so much that's going to come around, go around, and people are going to want you to do, and people will not want you to do. But you got to find it within yourself, like y'all said, to be
Yeah.
strong about it.
Yeah, I think even recognizing it, right, is a huge first step in terms of avoiding the bad influence. If you recognize that something is not beneficial for you or is a bad habit, or someone is, you have an unhealthy relationship with someone, recognizing it is square one, right? At least you are
It's tough.
it's tough, but at least you're able to separate, okay, this is bad, I probably shouldn't do this, or can make this a habit or continuously do this habit. So cool. Well, shall we move on to the next question?
Absolutely.
All right, fellas. Speaking of good habits and bad habits, my question is, what actions/lifestyles have you adopted that have influenced you for the better in your 20s? So what personal things have you guys adopted, lifestyle choices, decision making, etc.? What have you guys done to make your 20s better?
Man, I know we say this all the time, but working out, man. Ooh, man, because those temptations. Oh, dude, when you look at that good little ice cream sundae, you look at that like cake, that cookie, that ooh, man, you're like, man, I want that. But then you're like, man, no, I'm gonna be self-disciplined. I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna get right. Because when you go to the gym and you have a proper plan and you have good influence on your program, your plan, you're gonna see some good results. You're gonna like where you're going, and then over time, when you get that habit, like we said in previous podcasts, habit.
Easily.
When you do it over and over and over and over again, that becomes second nature. So, but me personally, dude, going to the gym, and it's just, you feel so good about yourself. It's so like invigorating, like so makes just enthusiasm in yourself, and you inspire yourself, and you can see other people that are good influences.
Yeah.
Now, granted, while there are some people who are straight assholes, I say are straight assholes
Easily.
in the gym. And I don't even care. Y'all can add me all you want. Some of y'all are assholes. I don't care. But you see a lot of people in the gym like want to help other people and get them better, because when people realize where they were those people.
Right.
In the beginning. Because not everyone just is born into like, oh, huh, you're benching 400 or you're doing this or you're doing this, performing this or that. So it's, for me personally, just get in my mind, especially like if I'm mad or I'm sad or upset, dude, what better way than to get some weights and just start moving them around, feel good.
Yeah.
All positives come from that, to me personally, and it feels good, dude. All good. I don't really see any bad going to the gym. I really don't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Connor?
Yeah, I mean, that's the number one thing I felt this year that's helped me when I'm feeling down, and I go to the gym afterwards. Like, even if I have a bad day, I still will look back and be like, you know what, I had a killer workout this morning. Like today, I had a frustrating day at work a little bit, and I was like thinking like, oh man, how was today? And then I was like, you know what, I pushed it at my bench today and I did fantastic. And so I was able to remind myself of that. And I have my progress on my phone, and I could check it off my to-do list. And so that was like, that felt good. So yeah, big advocate of working out. And I would say just in general, you know, we've talked about these consistent habits, these daily, weekly habits that you should keep track of, these to-do planners, these scheduling things, these calendars that you should keep track of. Honestly, to best summarize it, I would say the cliche stuff that you hear about that is supposed to help you in your life, that like maybe when you're younger, you think that you're better than that and that you don't need to resort to that. No, I'm sorry. It works.
You should probably do it. Yeah.
It works. There's a reason why it's cliche. There's a reason why everybody talks about it. And there's a reason why there's research that shows that it works. So therapy, I'm sorry, it helps. For me, it helps. I know not everybody, people think they might be not need to do it or they're strong enough for it, but I'm telling you, everybody should go to therapy at least once in their life to gain some insight about themselves. 100%.
Gym is my therapy, but no, and that's not me, you know, and that's not me putting anything you're saying down.
No, I know. And gym is another one. Some people think that they don't have time. Therapy. Yep. Some people think that they don't have time to work out, or they don't have time to add this into their life, but you do have time. Like you could give up something in your life to do it. You know, you really could, and you choose not to. And that is the biggest lifestyle that I've learned, is that you had this maybe mindset that maybe you need to realize that maybe I can't turn it on its head and maybe I can do something about it. And you really have more control over your life than you realize. So that kind of way of thinking and realizing the cliche stuff really does help. Meditation's another one. People are like, oh, meditation, that's so weird. Like, why would I do that every day? Oh my gosh, I've meditated every now and then. It's so helpful. I would love to do it daily. It does. It centers your brain. There's like evidence for it. Like we could post studies. Anyway, so that's to summarize it, the cliche stuff. Tanner, what about you?
What you said about, you know, finding the time in the day to do it. Newsflash, everyone has the same amount of time each day. And
I was going to say it.
And it easier said than done. And I know,
of course,
trying to push yourself and make time for something that maybe initially you don't really want to do. You know, it's a good habit, like going to the gym, for example. You don't want to do it because you're not in shape. You're intimidated by the meatheads that are assholes in a gym or whatever the case is. But guess what? Everyone has 24 hours in a day. And if you want to do something and you have good intentions of doing it, then just fucking don't say, oh, maybe tomorrow. You'll say that every day. So yes, the one I was going to say that is something that I have adopted, especially within the last 2 years, being up here in Cincinnati and moving from Alabama to Cincinnati, only knowing my girlfriend and my family, my mom and step family, learning to be best friends with myself and being okay being alone is something that sounds so simple, but truly being satisfied on being alone, doing things by yourself, is something that so many people struggle with. They constantly need to have company or need to be around people, be on the phone with people, or even just be on their phone in general, like always being distracted, right? But are you able to put the phone away, go on a hike by yourself all day? And bet you 95% of people will say no, or they can't do it. So yeah, find your therapy, learn to be best friends with yourself and be comfortable being by yourself. And
or having one person. Dude, I know this is, everyone's going to say simp, but dude, like sometimes when I'm having a rough day, I go straight to my girlfriend and I just hug her.
Yeah.
And I hang out and I just literally, like, her and I will just be on the couch and I cuddle with my girlfriend, dude, and life is amazing. And like, I don't know, it's weird, dude. Like when you find someone that you truly do care about, like you could just be in their presence and like everything in the world just like goes
and that's
away.
Enough. Just being in their presence is enough, for sure.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Yeah, those were the only things I had to add, but I feel like all of our answers contributed a lot. There's a lot of different things you can do, but we nailed it with that question. Next question, I believe, is Mr. Connor. Connor Lawson, you have the next question?
Yeah, we've kind of touched in and around this subject, but I think it'd be interesting towards the end of this episode to go into it. I brought it up earlier when I had friends that I felt like weren't maybe the best influence for me. It was hard to let that go. Tanner, you talked about it briefly. How do you learn to let go of bad influences when you have such a deep connection with them? Whether it's a friend that's been in your life since you were 5, whether it's an addicting habit that brings you relief. I'll name one that happens to, I think, affect a lot of men: pornography. That is absolutely one that I think affects a lot of dudes.
For your question, Connor, my thing is, is that person growing with me? Are we helping each other, benefiting each other, trying to root for the other person to succeed, right? If you are, let's say, Connor, for you, for example, let's talk about you for a second, because my lifestyle is always different than yours. I moved around a bunch, but you didn't. You stayed in Georgia your whole life, right? You had similar friends pretty much your whole life. And now you're trying to better yourself and you move to a different state. And that's the first time you've really been away from all these friends. When you were away, did you realize that some of the friends you had in Georgia
weren't?
Yeah. It's not that there were certain people that I really wanted, that I missed, that I wanted to be around. And I said bye to a lot more people than those people that I thought about, like, honestly, that I thought about on a day-to-day basis. And the people that I thought about on a day-to-day basis, it was like you said, I did keep in contact with them. And it's because I naturally felt like doing it, because I felt like the relationship was mutually beneficial.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of my answer, is really the environment that you're in. If one of you or both of you are removed from the environment that you're used to, right, and then you come back to that, was the relationship still ongoing? Were you both positive influences to the other? I feel like it just goes hand in hand with people grow in life at different paces, mentally, physically. I know friends who are still in their hometown, nothing wrong with that. Never went to college, nothing wrong with that. I know people who are literally traveling the world and are already making $1 million+ a year. And it's insane to see the progression of my friends of one spectrum to the end of the spectrum. But are you guys being positive influences with each other? Were you guys helping each other out in times of need? And has that progressed in a positive manner over time? If not, or you feel kind of stuck with that person, or that you're trying to get ahead and that person isn't, maybe you guys can be good friends. But in terms of an influence, keep that at arm's. That's just my answer. Maybe that's a little harsh, but personally, that's how I felt.
No, the weird thing is, like, Tanner's one person that, especially when it comes to something like this, I'm pretty much about the same. And Tanner and I talked about this a lot, but Steve Harvey said it best: not everybody that comes with you can go with you, because you grow up, right? Like Tanner said, everyone grows at and learns different paces, speeds, just physically, emotionally, mentally. And it's one of those, if people can't be considerate or, like you said, add value, like why would you keep that around? And for me personally, it's realizing, like, because there are trends. When people aren't being good influencers, you start to figure it out over trends and, like, time. And when you start to realize that and it's not helping you out or adding value, me personally, I mean, not even like keep them at arm's length, dude. I've completely cut some people off, because I'm like, hey, you're not bringing value to my life, and I can't have you around, because that's more baggage, dude, and that's slowing you down.
Right.
So why add more baggage and more weight on you that's unnecessary? It's just extra on there, and it doesn't help you. It doesn't look good. It doesn't help you with anything. So why slow yourself down and slow your life, your progression and everything with other people who aren't going to make it lighter on yourself and help build you up and y'all's both up? It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So, but me personally, it's easy. I could tell someone, hey, sorry, smell you.
Well,
so
what's interesting that I think some people struggle with, that you kind of made me think of, GT, is like, one thing that I think people have a hard time with in order of letting go of these influences is being honest about it to that person, or being honest about it to themselves when it's a problem with an addiction or something, right? And so it's like, oh, I realize that this person, like, for example, if you're listening to this podcast and you're trying to let go of bad influences and you're trying to better yourself, you're already on a path and on a step that, like, those people in your life probably aren't on, because you're thinking about it.
You're
and
recognizing
you should give yourself
it.
you should give yourself credit for recognizing it, for
Accepting
being
it
able to have enough
where you are.
self-awareness to go, oh my gosh, I need to do something. That's such, so many people don't have that in their lives. So you should be proud if whoever's listening, if you do have that with you. But it's like learning how to be honest with that person. Honestly, my opinion about it is, and I know it might seem kind of harsh, like, barring like maybe certain circumstances, I don't even think you have to tell them that you're going. I really don't. Because
ghosting,
like the thing is, it's not even intentionally. I have just stopped talking to people because I forget about it, but then I realize I don't even really need to or want to talk to them, and it's not personal. And if I saw them again, I would be pleasant, but I don't need to
Not
like
going
pretend.
out of my way for you.
Yeah, I don't need to pretend that I am going out of my way because I miss you, and it's like. I maybe miss our friendship, I maybe miss our relationship, and I maybe miss the connection that we had. But if we had kept what we were going on, I would have drowned, and I have to be bigger than that because I have things that I aspire to be. And
easily,
you could come up there with me if you changed your life too. But if you're not, then I have to move forward because I can't be left behind, because I have to focus on myself. And it doesn't, I know some people might think that's harsh, that you might need to tell, especially like a close friend. And it's just like, sometimes I don't even think you have to. If you're at a point where you're drowning, I don't even think you have to. I think you could just drop it and go and find good people. I really do think you can, because if it's too hard, then you need to do what's best for you. And if that means you got to ghost, then you got to ghost. I'm sorry. Like, I know that might be harsh, but
let that boat sail, baby.
Let
that boat undock and sail out and explore and see the better life. Man, don't stay docked on that bum ass port that you've seen crease, cracks, roaches all over, ugly fish, all that nasty.
We didn't. We had our colorful GT metaphor of the episode.
Let that boat just go out, like have doves come out, like go adventure, baby.
Doves. What's your question?
What actions or phrases have you experienced? Bad influence or good influence? Like what? No, frustrated or rubbed you the wrong way? Change how you look at specific people or actions. Quick personal thing, and then we can be done.
I'll go quick because it was the first thing that came to my head is selfishness, and it's like a selfishness that's like really like sometimes hard to spot with people when they're like all about themselves, but only for themselves. They're not all about themselves to better people around them. Like they're interested in being the main character of the entire world rather than just
center of attention.
The center of attention, right? Exactly. And like if they're not on their boat, then if you're not on their boat, then you're wrong. And it's like, well, no, it's just I'm on my own boat. We're using the boat because that was a good metaphor. But for real, like selfishness is probably the most overarching thing that I can think of, where you're self-centered, you're only thinking about yourself, you're only thinking about how your actions affect you and nobody else. And it's very obvious, even if people can be friendly, it's very obvious when people are like that. When you start to realize what those actions are, it's really obvious to see it.
God, that made me think of some people in life right now who are so like selfish. They think they're so much higher up because they might have more money, nicer job, paying. Shout out,
just calling out,
man. At blah blah blah, dude.
I don't know how to edit it. So God. That's the best it's gonna be.
It's dude.
Make the beeps really obnoxious when you add
just easily.
Absolutely. Some people who they try to act like they're so much better are, because I think it's, not even like it's people putting themselves on a pedestal. It's like, first off, how about you let people, if people are putting you on a pedestal, it's because you're probably doing something really good and something that's helping others for the most part. Don't be self-proclaimed and put yourself on a pedestal so much higher than people, because that's how people will start to destroy that pedestal and bring it down. And that's not me being like threatening or nothing. That's just me being real. So I'm sorry, you said that and that rubbed me the wrong way, and that ignited that.
Yep. Tanner, what about you real quick, man? Want to get your input?
It's hard to top people who are selfish, because that's probably my biggest pet peeve in general with people. But another thing that probably rubs me the wrong way would be people that just aren't genuine and trying to be someone else. I moved around so much and met so many people. I know people's personalities before I'm around them for like an hour, and I can just see through people's bullshit so quickly. And it just goes back to what we were saying earlier about everyone trying to be liked and fit in within friend groups or within society, especially in their 20s, right? They're trying to make all these friends. And if you're trying to be friends with a lot of people, the odds are you're trying to fit in with that certain group at the time. And you're just not being your genuine self instead, and having the quality law of attraction, having the quality people, be attracted to you. So I think just people not being genuine, not being themselves, being selfish, all the above, self-proclaimed, everything that we said. But yeah. So, fellas, I think in terms of the questions, I personally like this episode the most. What we asked and what we discussed. I think it was a great episode. So,
great
next
questions,
week,
boys.
Absolutely. Next week, we are going to have a guest with us, and hopefully it works out where the four of us are able to kind of have a similar format, but also really kind of interview the individual and kind of talk about his struggles and everything like that. So any closing thoughts from you guys, and then I'll wrap it up and we'll call it a day.
Man, only good influences. If it's bad influences, it's fuck them. Smell you.
Fuck them. Period.
Learn to love yourself so that you know how to find the best influences in your life.
Yeah.
But it's really fuck them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, fuck them.
Fuck them.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, that's right, baby.
That's the motto of the episode.
All about it.
They're bad for you. Fuck them.
I think everything we said has been very good. I also think what I mentioned earlier too, though, about learning to be best friends with yourself, knowing who you are as a genuine being, everything else will follow in suit. The people that want to be around you and that are quality friends, guess what? They'll stick around. And over time, you'll very much so realize who those people are and who those people are not. So keep being you, keep being a genuine person that you are, and everything will follow suit. I'm proud of you. This is another episode of Let's Talk 20s. Signing off. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.